very good evening to you this lovely Saturday, dear viewer. My name is Ayot Lillian, and this is the Real Talk on Westnile TV every Saturdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Thank you for joining us for today's episode, and I hope you had a wonderful week. And if it has been a stressful one, then you are in the right place. We are here to kill your stress and make your evening. Thank you for joining us, and by the way, happy new month. And this is a very special month because it's a sickle cell awareness month. I know not so many people know about that, but it is a month dedicated to creating awareness about sickle cell disease. And on a very special notice, next week our episode is going to focus on sickle cell disease, so that we have the information, because one of the biggest problems that people face today is not so many people know about this disease, because some of us even carry these traits, but we don't know. But that is not our focus for today. We still hope you can carry on the information and be part of the awareness creating team. Thank you for joining us today, and you can be a part of this discussion by going on our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, whatever you think based on our topic of today, your opinion. We value it here on Westnile TV. Today our topic for discussion is one of the topics of concern that many people have talked about over and over and over, and it affects us. You like it or not, it's affecting you as an individual, or in your family, or maybe in your circle of friends, even at your place of work. So this is a topic that we all need to pay attention to, and your opinion matters. If you're also catching us on Facebook, we are live. You can still leave your comment there and we'll read it right here. So I don't want to keep you in suspense for so long. Today our topic focus says on drug abuse. I know a lot of people are so familiar with this topic. A lot, especially the youth. At least you've discussed this in your families, in your peer discussions, or even in such on such platforms. We've talked about it. The concern is that the rate of drug abuse among people is on the increase. However much maybe the government, other organizations, and even you yourselves have gotten into interventions to see that we deal with this problem, but it's something eating up this generation, especially the young youth. So when you talk about drug abuse, I know a lot comes into your mind. You start thinking about alcohol, tobacco, even prescribed medication, you know, all these. So we are going to have a full understanding of what drug abuse is and how well you can use drug. We're going to look at the factors that are leading to the increase, how best we can deal with this, the commonly abused drugs here in Uganda, and also their side effects on an individual, your family, and the country at large. So we'll be looking at all these, and also how we can help people who are abusing drugs, and especially drug addicts. Thank you for joining us today. In the studio we only have one guest. We usually do have two, but today we have a special guest. That is he's one man who is very familiar with the young people. I know he has a vast understanding on this topic because he has been with the young people, engaging with them on the streets, and he's a media personality, by the way, so he has been having things like this on his shows. And today he's going to share with us on this topic of drug abuse, and you can equally be a part of this discussion. Without any further ado, let's have our guests say hi to our viewer. You're most welcome to the studio of Westnile TV. Please introduce yourself to our viewer.
Yes, good evening, the viewer. It's been a pleasure, a huge honor to actually be here this very evening to share with the young people, particularly about drug abuse. I've loved the fact that we're able to look at what is affecting hugely the young generation, and that comes with the aspect of productivity. I was just a call. I said, this is the opportunity. I thought I'm honored to be here.
Thank you so much for accepting our invite here on Westnile TV. And I believe by the end of this discussion, a lot of people will be able to understand this topic, and together we can fight this vice among our focus is among the young people, that by the end of this discussion, you'll have reasons to quit whatever drug you're abusing, or maybe learn how to use drug properly. Without wasting time, Kim Naz, what comes to your mind when you hear about about drug abuse? General paint a general picture that people out there have. I mean, the young people, because you interface with them a lot.
Yes, thank you so much. In the first place, allow me let you know what drugs are. There are probably a number of things that you will term as drugs, starting from the accepted ones. There are quite a number of things. When we talk about drugs, basically we're talking about things that enhance your living. Why it's called drug abuse is now the misuse. Quite a number of young people, even the aged, at some point you will also pin them as part of this, because if you move, particularly in Ugandan perspective, they are, it cuts across. Right now, you're not going to wake up and say it's only the young people who are actually consuming these drugs or misusing them. There are equally elderly people who are somewhere thinking that it is through the drugs that they can be able to kill, stress and all that. But allow me say, drug abuse is simply the misuse of the drugs that are in display or drugs that are actually there to enhance life. There are probably even food. Food can be, one typical example of drug abuse. Because I know if somebody went through actually to school around P4, P5, the science tells us that too much eating is actually called abnormal feeding, and that in itself affects your health. If you eat too much, there are a lot of things that actually comes probably to haunt back at your body. So that in itself means that you misuse food. So if you misuse food and it becomes a problem, which literally we all know food is a good thing, but now if you misuse it, it becomes a problem. So the drugs are actually there to be used, consumed by people, and there are some that are yet to be, in the current contemporary world or the evolving world. There are some that are not been identified yet. Even the things that are used in the villages, people do not know that they are actually drugs. But the misuse is where the problem now comes. I think the whole understanding of this is that the drugs are in play everywhere around the globe. They are in play, and they come in different forms. But the issue now is the misuse, and that is why and how the abuse part of it actually comes into play.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people, before we go into that, let's look at some of the commonly abused drugs in our community.
There are quite a number of them, even including drugs that are prescribed to cure sicknesses. If you go to hospitals, there are certain drugs that are given to you to help your health, to see that you live a very healthy life. However, the misuse now comes if you don't or fail to use it in accordance to what the prescription actually says. That's one. Two, you look at the narcotic drugs, things like marungi, commonly consumed by the young people here. In any way, I don't want to think and say that marungi is a very good thing. It's never. Personally, I don't consume it. And I look at myself as an activist against the marungi consumption. Why? Because I have seen much of the negative side with less, positivity in it. However, it only became one of the many examples that I could actually give. Remember, we're talking about things like marijuana, opium, literally. Opium is one of the commonest, drugs that has been misused here. Because if you go down to why I said when it is used the right way, it is not a problem. But too much of it or misuse becomes the drug abuse. The marijuana we're talking about here, remember the current act that has just been tabled and which is pending a serious discussion in the parliament with an act or the law that is yet to be passed, in itself says that marijuana is a good thing. That is if it is, because it is cannabis. We're talking about cannabis here. Things that can be used to make real drugs that can be prescribed to people to use in the hospitals, which there somebody can say, okay, it's a good thing. But now the question comes, is it being well used? Right now you go to the
before
streets.
we go that far, I want us to bring this example closer. People go to the hospitals and then there's doctors prescribe medicine and they tell you to take maybe Panadol 2 times a day, and then someone takes it 4 or 3 times a day. And sometimes you feel you have pain and you're taking these painkillers. So people keep taking these painkillers excessively, maybe overdosing and all that. So is that any kind of a drug abuse, misuse or anything like that?
Yeah, it is. It is. What kills you actually becomes an abuse. For example, if you are being given, let's say, the malaria type tablets, or let's say paracetamol, yes, that is a Panadol. If you are being given it, let's say, to consume, like take 2 of them, like you said, you clearly stated, and you happen to, or you decided, because of the pain you feel in your body, you say no. The person who actually prescribed it to you is the expert. That is a doctor, a nurse who actually went through, the course and all that, was able to learn. But you, who has not actually been into the school of medicine, and you think you can now take it so that this huge pain can actually go away, or you can get relieved, my friend, you're actually killing yourself. And that is where it actually becomes a drug abuse. Like you said, I think I perfectly respond to that by saying too much of the Panadol, which many people do actually misuse here, is a drug abuse. It is.
So there you have it. If you don't follow your doctor's prescription, or maybe taking the drug the way you're supposed to take it, I mean, when we talk about drug abuse, we not only mean maybe alcohol, the smoking, all those things. So it's actually it's something that you should feel every day, because I know that people who take this drug simply because the pain is not subsiding, and then they keep taking and taking and taking. At the end of it all, you overdose, and then it becomes harmful to your body. So we are saying that that is a form of drug abuse that we need to deal with. So leaving the prescribed drugs aside, let's look at some of these common drugs that are being used in our communities that is causing a lot of problem among the young people, especially health problems today.
One common one I can mention is the opium that we spoke about. Opium, which I probably will prefer calling it a marijuana. It is the current act actually allows it to be grown in our community, but on condition that it's licensed, or you, the grower, is licensed to carry the activity. Even if it means you consuming it, it has to be through the licensing board that accepts or permits you to do that. Failure to do that, or just feeling that, okay, I already have mine, just like any other cereals. I mean, it's just in the community. For example, somebody can say, I have my cassava, somebody can say, I have my maize in the garden, I can just go and pluck and I eat. But that with the narcotic drugs, it's never going to be the case. The act actually clearly states that because this comes with the aspect of psychotropic, for which you are clearly supposed to license or be licensed, then it will guarantee you an instruction to use it. And again, you are not supposed to use it with the community just anyhow like that. You who is being licensed to carry it, the activity. So this in itself means that there are quite a number of them. Like I said, opium is one. Then tobacco is another. It has caused a lot of issues to people in the community. We have seen that. Then I don't want to talk about, for now, I want to limit us from talking much about those ones in the pharmacies, because those ones we already know. The doctors guide you. But then there are these ones, let's say the narcotics, where a young man will just go to the garden and plug it and think this is it.
This is okay.
That is where the issue is. So you'll mention Mairungi, like we did before, opium, tobacco. Even there are some, like I mentioned early from the start, that there are some that are just emerging. They're just trying to evolve. We didn't know about them. Like right now in Yube district, I'm meant to understand a gray hair of an elderly person is actually picked and smoked. So you wonder why and how this is all coming about. I think it's a huge area of concern. If you have to give the examples, I can promise you there are millions and millions. But some of these are not really necessary, more especially if you talk about the skin of snake. In other places, people say, you smoke it, and it gives you a kind of vibe.
I love those examples. I know it's a fest at some point. It's something that is unbelievable. The biggest question everyone asked at the point is, what benefit do people get from smoking an old woman's gray hair and then the scale of the skin? Is there any reason as to why they do that?
It is very difficult to understand that bit, but I can promise you, whoever does that to me is in a very confused world. I boldly can say that I don't see any reason as to why you should identify something that is within your body, and you feel if somebody consumes it, the person is going to carry or generate pride out of it.
Is it because it's cheap? cheap or?
I don't want to think it's cheap because the gray-haired elderly people in the community are running away from the young people. So that to me means that it's never cheap. If somebody like you yourself, Lillian, if I wake up and say your hair is gray, I need to get it and smoke. Probably you will say, is this man okay? I think that gives you a reason to really think that this is a very bad act. It's a very bad move that the young people are taking. I don't know. I don't know if it's about creativity. To me, it's far away from creativity. In any way.
Wow, that's interesting. I think someone needs to pick up that and do more research on why people smoke that and the health benefits. And oh my. Okay, it's funny, but it's true. So that is just an example of some of the drugs that are being abused. I know there's this, one of the common types of drugs that people abuse today is actually alcohol and cigarettes that people smoke in public. You can imagine someone taking alcohol and then becomes a nuisance, maybe in a gathering, and an incident where a friend was actually at the referral hospital, and then someone gets his smoke where people were in the waiting lot, and then the person starts smoking. So what do you think about such people and what can be done?
We have seen the young people smoking, we have seen the young people drinking, we have seen the young people, even the elderly, I should say, using some of these drugs or misusing them. But if you ask why they do it, even majority or 80% cannot tell you what exactly they are doing it for. This brings me to the aspect or the question of why, I mean, what can be done? I think the understanding bit should all start with the sensitization. I don't think if there is any, you know, first of all, before I even tell why it is done or what should be done, I think the root cause has to be looked at first. Where is this all coming from? How are people getting to know about these drugs? More especially a young boy in the village, a 13-year-old boy smoking a gray hair of an elderly person. Then a small boy moving to the clubs to drink alcohol. I think parents have to be, you know, considered here. Have to be looked into here. You are a parent. I don't want to think that every young person who is drinking and smoking out there is an orphan. At least there should be a guardian. But the question now comes: how did this young person get to know that you have to actually drink alcohol and come home in the morning? How do they get to know that? I think there is aspect of peer grouping, which hugely to me affects all this, or comes into the circle to culminate the whole thing.
So where does the individual fall in all this, the person abusing the drug?
It's quite unfortunate that we are now looking at an area or an era in which everyone is consuming this. If you go to, let's say, do a research, you will go to a village where, okay, let's say 1 million people reside in, you will actually notice over 800 of them consume these drugs. So that in itself means that they have become readily available. So that to me should be one area where the individuality has to be looked at from that particular angle. If I am somebody who doesn't consume these things, but they are readily available near me, at a time when I have nothing to do, I think I will have it to do. Yes, I will have it to do instead.
So most of the justification that people give for abusing this drug is that it kills stress, you know, when you drink, you forget your problems and all that. But is it true that alcohol or smoking reduces stress?
It doesn't. It doesn't. For an elderly person, somebody can say, or else for a working class who knows how to use it, like I said from the start, right from the definition, if you use it well, I don't think if there's any problem, more especially alcohol. There are a group of people, like me, I don't drink, but there are a group of people who are close to me at a personal level. At least I can be able to tell the consumption rate of alcohol, that is, you know, what they take, actually does not make them a nuisance. I think if they ask me to probably defend such a person, I can outrightly do. I can say, Lillian, after work, let's say from the bank, let's say from you know, the office, wherever you work, coming home, you probably can mean to get just a bottle, and that in itself will put you in a position, will bring back the moods, but never killing stress. I don't think outrightly
So it doesn't kill stress. Well, thank you. We are still on the discussion of drug abuse, especially among the people. Why is it on the rise and how we can best deal with this? We've looked at some of the commonly abused drugs among the people. So what do you think? Give us, you can tell us your thoughts on our YouTube channel, on Westnile TV, and our Facebook channel of Westnile TV. There we'll have your comments here, because your opinion matters a lot to us, and this is a matter of public concern that we all need to be concerned, so that we get rid of this vice. And we're going in for a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll still look at some of the reasons as to why people abuse these drugs, and how best we as a community, as a nation, and also what role the government can play in curbing this vice. Don't go away.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
A brand new global Star TV with StarTimes Inside Technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTimes antenna and satellite signal. With StarTimes Inside Global Star TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes highest bouquet for free, automatic system update, more benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Inside Global Star TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region. Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
A brand new global Star TV with StarTimes Inside Technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTimes antenna and satellite signal. With StarTimes Inside Global Star TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes highest bouquet for free, automatic system update, more benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Inside Global Star TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region. Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
Welcome back from that break. Thank you for staying with us. This is Westnile TV, lighting up the region, and every Saturdays from 8 to 10 p.m. your favorite program, The Real Talk with me, Ayot Lillian, is here. Thank you for joining us in on today's episode, and I hope you are following the conversation. For those who have just joined us on this discussion, we are discussing drug abuse and how it has affected us, and especially the young people, and what we can do to deal with this vice, and what the government can also do, and because together we all need to get rid of this. It has been a matter of concern, and among one of the top problems affecting the young people in this country and worldwide, I should say. A lot of people, a lot of us are abusing drugs knowingly and unknowingly. When we talk about drugs, we don't only mean these ones, the common ones that you know, alcohol, cocaine, heroin, all these, but we bring it to these prescribed drugs like Panadol, maybe anti-malaria drugs that we normally take. We overdose the painkillers and all that. So what we're saying is be careful how you take these drugs. Always follow your prescription. And for those who are already taking these other ones, the alcohol, smoking, you know, cigarettes, marijuana, and all that, you can still follow our discussion on this discussion to share your thoughts by going on our YouTube channel and our Facebook channel and leave your comment, which we shall read here because we value it. And in the studio today we have Kim Naz Atinga here in the studio, who introduced himself again, who has joined us on this discussion because he's one person who has had a lot of interface with the young people discussing such matters and such topics, so he knows exactly what it means when we talk about drug abuse, especially among the young people. Thank you so much for joining us today once again. So I'll directly pose this question to you. You know, you see kids of less than 10 years these days already smoking, taking alcohol, and a lot of them in the disco, you know, the clubs, like you already said, they are taking alcohol excessively, smoking, like you can't just tell. So these people have been giving reasons for abusing these drugs, for using these drugs. We're saying not the proper way, but they have given reasons to justify how they use these drugs. So let us delve into some of these reasons and see if they are valid or not. What are some of the common reasons that they have given you for abusing these drugs?
Yes, thank you so much once again. Allow me say that quite a number of reasons actually been forwarded for this for drug abuse. But one common one that keeps haunting my soul as I keep moving in the community is the fact that people say peer pressure. They have looked at peer pressure. I don't know how it actually does, but I can tell for a young person that who is still growing up, you see your colleagues doing it, you consuming it, and then you're like, okay, if so and so can, why not me? But why I feel it so disturbing and haunting is because the school I went to, that I can't mention right now, I was sleeping in a dormitory where 80% of the students were consuming marungi. They were chewing marungi for fun, like it was a routine. Yeah. Every evening, guys would walk and buy and come to the dormitory and consume. But out of those many...
Before you go there,
yes.
So you say 80% of these guys were consuming these drugs.
Exactly.
Who was availing these drugs? Was it sold by fellow students or someone outside? How did they access these drugs?
The school I studied in, there was a border border stage next to the fence. Oh. That literally means that the border borders will be sent to buy the mairungi, and they normally come and as they keep doing their job, they also do a mission of trying to import it. So basically, it was a common thing. And again, during certain boarding schools, like you all know, can allow in a day or in a week you at least a slot to go out and have a tour of, you know, the nearby places. Okay. So guys would use such opportunities to actually grab or buy this mairungi. So that in itself to me means that the aspect of peer pressure, Matses is a huge thing, but how come that I never consumed it? How come that amidst the challenge of everyone consuming it, I still felt I can do without it? Okay. So that to me also comes with a mindset. So I see mindset as a key thing. One, that was particular about the peer pressure. Two, I think many of these drugs are actually abused because of self-medication. You find somebody waking up and saying, I am not feeling well, so all I can do is, there's already Panadol available in the house. So you just go, you want to treat yourself. Without knowing, without some expertise knowledge, without somebody who deals with the medicines actually prescribing it for you. So that is already a way that you're going to either underdose yourself or overdose. And that is already a drug abuse. Then another reason is, to me, experimentation. I've seen young people who sit and say, okay, the other group is already experiencing, they're already doing it. Why can't I try to test? How
the curiosity.
Exactly, that curiosity. The curiosity actually pushes you into it. You'll be like, okay, I want to know. So that is another problem. It has led to many young people actually going into it when they originally do not have the intentions. Then the aspect of poor parenting. I think poor parenting is a very key aspect in this. Young people are probably, like you mentioned, a 13-year-old boy, a 12-year, or even under 10, smoking. If this person stays in a home, why they're smoking? I think the parents needed to do their works well. That's why I was saying poor parenting to me plays a very huge role. Actually, is one of the huge causes of this.
What perspective are we looking at this? Is it from a perspective where maybe the parents are not strict on the kids, what the kids do, or maybe it's actually these parents who are abusing this drug, you know, an alcoholic father coming home, or a mother who smokes openly while the children are watching?
You know, Ayot, it gets very annoying that a parent comes home and finds the son or a daughter smoking and is very comfortable. I think poor parenting now comes with that kind of thing. You're not guided, you're not being strict, you're not being, you know, you're not being directorate, you're not giving the right direction to your to your children. You're not sensitizing them, you're not making them, you're not creating ambitions for them. By the way, in parenting, one of the things parents will actually learn to do is to create ambition for your child. If you are this parent who is going to come late in the night, you don't interface with your children, then you should be blamed for anything that they will do in your absence. Because ideally, as a father or as a mother, you're supposed to come home early, or on a weekend when you're home, not in office, you can prefer to have such a time, quality time with your children. So it's through such an interface, or you know, such a reaction, an action kind of relationship, that they will be able to know that my father doesn't like this. While growing up, I grew up knowing that my father does not like alcohol, and I grew up with that. So up to now, I don't drink, not because I don't want to drink, but because I know it's a bad thing, because whatever my father will stop me from consuming, it's a bad thing. So I grew up knowing that. One other reason of
before we go there,
yes.
We want to know how much control these parents have over their children when it comes to abusing drugs, because we earlier on talked about factors like peer pressure, yes, you know, curiosity. Most of these parents are not around, so these children get to interface with their friends and then get into these acts of maybe taking marijuana and all this and all that. So in such a scenario, what does the parent do?
First of all, as a parent, you create an environment for your child to live in. If you know you are living in an area where the consumption rate is very, very high, and you decide to abandon these children to grow up in this particular community, then you expect them to actually, due to peer pressure, like you mentioned, start trying it or experimenting it, wanting to know how it feels like. But if you choose, for example, Ayot, if you choose to have your child residing with you as a parent, maybe let's say around Anyafio area, where not many young people actually consume it within the area, then you're going to have a very clean and safe environment for your children. I think it is to that extent that the parents have to be blamed for exposing these children to these drugs. However, if a child decides to do that, let's say during school time, you may say, okay, there you can't say much about the parenting. Maybe you would have, as a parent, you would have played your part to take this child or to send this child to a very good school with a very good environment. But him getting to consume or she getting to consume it from school, I think there you'll have a minimal, blame or share of the blame to take. But creation of a safe environment for your child to grow in is where I feel the parents have to really take charge of.
Okay, let's talk about the availability of these drugs to these young people. You know, some of these things, these young people easily access these drugs because, one, let's say the school-going children, you have a school and then there's a nearby trading center where they sell alcohol, they sell cigarettes, and so they have access to these things. But most importantly, the most recent one, I don't know if it's recent, but I believe I've just gotten to know about it. There's something called weed cookie. So this is the part where I want to caution girls to be careful. You know, these cookies, these weed cookies, like the name is, just like the name, it's a cookie made of weed. So you eat it knowingly or unknowingly. For someone who has never tasted weed, I believe you just be eating because you simply love cooking. So how has this contributed to the rise in, the rate of drug abuse?
Like I said, I think the exposure level has increased so hugely. If the new evolving technologies or means of cooking and the ideas, or maybe I don't want to really term it as a creativity, if it has reached to the extent of cooking or making weedy, of course, weed cookies,
the weed cookies,
that becomes so unfortunate, more especially for those who are going to consume it unknowingly, because ideally, the law guides, of course the act that is just been tabled and hugely discussed, has it that if you are not licensed, and this normally the people who sell these weed cookies, they're not licensed. They're not licensed to carry the activity. First of all, the license.
But before you talk about licensing,
yes,
some of these products are imported into the country. These weed cookies, some of them are imported. So let us, at this point, look at the role that government plays in regulating the abuse of drugs in this country.
If you talk about the government, you are going to mention one of the pillars, one of the huge pillars as to why the drug abuse is on the rise. Literally, the government is supposed to, look at how do we completely go off the drug abuse. But with the look of things, with the act that is being tabled, you can clearly state that the government is looking at the money bit now. The Western world or the foreign world has already exposed us to a certain, or squeezed us to a certain corner, where in the near future, of course, the government is going to find it very, very difficult to actually do without these things. And that also comes back to the exposure, like I mentioned. If everyone is going to be exposed to these things, like it happens in Jamaica, everyone now sees opium or marijuana as a very normal thing. But again, what makes the difference now is it took a number of years for the Jamaicans or those common consumers to understand the good and the bad part of it. But that comes with sensitization. But how much has the government of Uganda or any government of East African countries done to see that people are sensitized, people get to know about these things? If you're going to be allowed to grow it, why do you grow it? Is it for your own consumption or it is just for exportation? If it is for exportation, then we are looking at bringing in the foreign currency, winning the money. Yes, that really means a production. There, nobody is going to blame. But the government saying that you can be licensed to grow it and as well consume it, that to me becomes where the issue is. And again, the exposure bit. You are now going to make it readily available for everyone. Let's say if 10 people in a very small community like Oli are licensed to carry this activity, trust me, you are already bringing it closer to the young people, so they will feel safe using it.
So would we be right to say that this new bill actually promotes drug abuse, you know, instead of putting a stringent measure to reduce the use of some of these drugs?
It will also depend. It will also depend. Much as the bill is already stating that if once you are licensed, you can consume it, you can grow it for exportation. But how strict is the bill? How strict is the implementation? I think that is where a huge, blame will either be thrown on the government, or the government will be relieved. Which means, in short, I'm trying to mean, the government will have to come in very clear with a set of, rules to guide. If Ayot has a farm that is going to produce or grow marungi or marijuana, let's say, whatsoever, is she allowed to consume it, give it out to the people in the community? Is she freely going to expose it in the community for everyone to consume? How much protection are you giving to this product that is unwanted for the local community? So I think that the strictness, to me, will determine if the government is to take all the blame, or if the blame is going to be on the small department that's going to implement the bill. Because the truth of the matter is, the bill is good and bad. The good part is that government needs money. I need money. You need money. Everyone needs money. Even a common grower who is going to be hiding, without license, also needs money. But again, how easy is it for them to consume it? I think that, to me, is where the issue is going to be. So it's going to be reading in between the line. Is it freely used, or the bill says don't use it? These are the things. The strictness in implementation, trust me, will determine whether it's a good one or not.
Okay, so we have to say that the bill is just hanging in between.
Yeah.
It's a balance. But that is the role of government in regulating the use of drug in this country. And one of the high rates of one of the places where drugs is highly abused is actually the institutions. We want to talk about the secondary schools. The wave of strikes that we had last year here in Westnile, some of it was attributed to drug abuse, where some of these students went out, for sports activity and then consumed drugs, alcohol, and then they engaged in those fights. A lot happened, but the bottom line is alcohol was one of the reasons. Drug abuse was one of the reasons as to why some of these things happened. So let's trickle down and look at the role that the school administration plays in regulating the use of the drugs in the schools, because we see students, these drugs are not allowed on school compound, but we see students abusing these drugs. Where do they get these drugs from, and what is the school administration, what are the school administrations doing about this?
When it comes to the schools or the institutions, I think here the government equally have to extend the bill or try to, the set of rules that are going to determine whether it should be freely used or not, should be extended to the schools. These institutions have group of has students who are going to think their own way, not the way the school administration thinks. I don't want to think that the school administration is hugely to be blamed for this, because if you look at the school administrations, they normally say, here are our rules and regulations. But it is the students who will actually instead turn to use their own rules, or they break these rules. One of the mindsets during the school time that I faced was that when you smoke opium and you go and read, you are going to be bright. Everything, you're going to cram everything.
Okay.
Which to me is a very wrong mindset. It has never worked even during the trial, because I was in a set of, I was in a class where too many intelligent people were able to indulge into the drug abuse, probably using the opium, thinking that they're going to be even braver. But did it happen? No. So that means the experiment actually didn't win. So at the end of the day, trust me, the school administrations are always going to set the rules. And I've seen that, like where I started from. The rules were there. But the students were always frequently having these drugs in of course, in their cases, you'll find them sometimes with some bit of trickery. They will cut a mattress. They will cut a mattress and fix it in there.
Oh,
so when they are checking these things during their reporting time, remember all these items, the equipment are checked. Sometimes they don't need cutleries. When you're heading to school, they want to know, what have you brought that you're going to use or misuse in the school? What is it that you have brought? Like during our time, they will say, jean trousers, don't come with yours, don't come with any. But at the end of the day, students will cut the mattress and fix it in. Then the following day, you find a student actually on the compound roaming around, putting on a jean trouser. Then you wonder how they do it. But this is actually one of the many tricks the students will always use to beat down the school administration. How is the school administration going to follow them, like one after the other, checking them every day as a routine? I think it's a very huge task. So I think the school administration might be doing a lot, but because the drugs are readily available, the government has not limited them from being in the communities, then the students easily acquire them and they go to the schools with them. They sneak with them.
Okay, so the school administrations have a lot to do when it comes to dealing with the abuse of drugs in secondary schools. By the way, everyone is concerned because every time most of the students get time to go outside, they are violent. They're either smoking, removing shots, beating people, doing all that. So calling upon all these people, yes, the government can put in laws, bills to see that we deal with this, but also the school administration has a part to play. Most importantly, these individuals, we've talked about the roles of the parents, the school administration, the government. So let's come down to the individual. How responsible is an individual for what he or she does with the drugs?
People set different targets for themselves. People set ambitions. People have different ambitions. You are going to see someone who studies and knows very well that the officer I'm going to work in needs a smart brain. This alone is going to guide you whether you should go in for these drugs or not. Professionally, there are people who actually know that the profession they go in does not require any nonsense use of these drugs, even alcohol. And I also feel there are certain things, let's say, attached to religion. There are certain things, let's say the holy books have written that people misinterpret and they still end up using these things. For example, if you talk about alcohol, I don't think if in Christianity alcohol is a free go.
I think there's that one biblical verse that people misinterpret when it comes to alcohol, where Jesus turned water into wine. So
somebody will actually freely want to drink based on that quote, but it's been misinterpreted. So it's going to leave group of people very much confused and consuming this freely, and at the end of the day, or hence for the negativity that comes with it as an effect. But let's also acknowledge that, like you said, you clearly stated about individuality. Individually, how much respect do you have for yourselves? If you know that you are, first of all, the effects of the drugs on people is able, or it's very clear that you are able to see as an individual. Why must you be thinking of going into that state? We have seen young people running mad, absolutely mad, stripping off the clothes and walking in the streets naked, exposing their bodies and all that. Then you will see somebody instead buying a piece of cloth, and ending up damaging it all over in the names of looking like a rasta. You will see somebody moving in the streets, having the dreadlocks and all over, very dirty. But I'm not talking about the dreadlocks. Actually, the dreadlocks, to me, are just a fashion. We
also want to know the connection between dreadlocks and drug abuse, because I feel it's a fashion that is associated with this.
Somebody can say that, but as a Rastafarian, somebody will say or defend them and say it's just something to do with the culture and religion.
Okay.
Because they, as Rastas, believe in the Rastafari culture and also the religion, which they believe is godly, headed by King Selassie. So that in itself actually means that having the dreads to them is a very normal thing, but not to do with alcohol, not to do with mairungi, not to do with those other drugs.
Weed.
But people tend to misinterpret the whole thing. Siding away from that, I think individually, one thing people should also equally be looking into is, where do I want to be? I think if you have a direction, then you will know that you want to reach where you want to reach. When you indulge into this drug abuse, using these drugs, you know, you're not going to achieve that. We have seen it. It's on record that 57% of the young people, the statistics and research shows it, that 57% of the young people who start very well under the guidance of their parents and guardians end up misguided, end up in wrong hands, in wrong professions, and in wrong acts, simply because they got caught up with these drugs in the work of moving towards their goals and ambitions.
Okay, thank you, Kim, for that detailed information. But we are going in for a short break, and when we come back, we'll still look at some of the reasons people give for abusing these drugs, and then we will extensively look at the effects that these drugs have on individuals, families, and on everyone. After this short break, don't go away.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
A brand new Global Star TV with StarTimes Inside Technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTimes antenna and satellite signal. With StarTimes Inside Global Star TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes highest bouquet for free, automatic system update, more benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Inside Global Star TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
Welcome back. This is Westnile TV, lighting up the region, and I am Lillian Ayot with you here on The Real Talk. We do this every Saturdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Thank you for joining us for today's discussion. We are looking at drug abuse and addiction. We've looked at the definition of drug abuse. We've looked at some of the commonly abused drugs here in Uganda and reasons as to why people abuse some of these drugs, especially the young people, and what role the government, the parents, and you, an individual, play in all this. If you have missed this discussion, you can catch us on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page at Westnile TV. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We'll read your comments all out here. What do you think about this topic of discussion today? And today in the studio we have Mr. Kim Naz Atinga here with us, joining, and we've discussed extensively on this this topic. And if you have just joined this topic, if you have any questions, like I said, you can leave them on our YouTube channel. We'll have him respond to these questions. So now we've looked at some of the reasons, you know, why people get into these abusing these drugs like alcohol, cigarettes, marijuana, and others. You can mention it. You know, some of these drugs, some of us abuse these drugs intentionally, and others do this unintentionally. The reasons vary from an individual to your environment and whatever situation you're caught up in. But we want to say that we want to look at the effects that this has on you as an individual, or on the family, or on the nation at large, because everything you do as an individual somehow also affects at the higher level. We want to look at some of these effects. It varies from mental to economic, all that, but you know these things. You can let us know what you're thinking. So Kimnaz, what are some of the common effects that drug abuse has on people today, especially the young people?
There are quite a number of effects or impacts that it has created on people. That is drug abuse. I probably will want to start with death. We have seen how young people actually, after using these drugs or misusing these drugs, they end up insane. They end up having up something in the like everything becomes so easy for you. Killing becomes part of it. We have seen, it's on record that just next to Westnile TV, the golf course in the past had a lot of issues when the area was still much bushy. I can promise you that the number of killings or the records that were registered, trust me, those cases used to be very, very much. Why? Because you will find the young people, like right now, if you go to Barifa is still not a safe ground or place to walk in the evening hours and all that. More especially, even during the day, if you go there alone, you still can be scared of yourself. Why? Because it's in the know, or people are in the know, that inside there are people who smoke marijuana, yes, opium. There are people who even use cocaine. There are people who smoke cigarettes and chumairungi and all that. But it makes you reason like not like a normal human being. So we have seen cases of killings. That means death is as a result of this. Secondly, mental problems. We have seen people's mental health actually deteriorating very fast to the extent somebody runs mad.
Before you go any further, you know, I love it when you talk about the effect that drug abuse has on people's mental health. One of the reasons that people give for abusing this drug is stress. You know, they drink or they smoke to kill stress. So let us know whether this actually kills your stress, or it in one way or another just messes with your mental health, like beyond.
The confusion is that there are people who think drug abuse is caused by, instead it causes stress. Yeah? People think it is because of stress that they actually use these drugs or misuse them. Instead, it is because of this drug abuse that you actually get stressed. This depression comes into play. Mentally you run mad, like we all know many of the young people. It's actually the research that was carried in 2021 actually showed that 68% of the young people who run mad because they use these drugs, they misuse these drugs. So I think drug abuse has that direct effect to mental, confusion or disorderliness you have. Then another effect of drug abuse is poverty. I don't think, or I've not actually seen rich people consuming it this much, more especially someone who is very much, lively and working in an office. Of course, the level of consumption amidst them is very minimal. You can say 2%, more especially for bankers. How many bankers have you seen who wake up very early morning and they're always there Monday to Saturday working in the banks? I'm not defending the profession, but I'm looking at a busy mind that does not consume these things. They hardly run mad. So that tells you how somebody can recklessly consume these things and even fails to go for work. And again,
before you continue, so does that mean one's level of income determines their use of drugs?
Exactly. Okay. And even in contrary, there are people who, once they get money, they even start going into these things. But the truth of the matter, what I cannot rule out at this very point is that when you start consuming these things, let's say at a point when you have some little monies, then don't expect yourself to continue having more money. And the aspect of poverty also circulates around very many different angles. One of them is that when you have children who get indulged into the drug abuse, you don't expect much productivity from your home. Let's say if you're a farmer, your children are into smoking. These are the children who are supposed to back you up in doing farming. So if they instead are going into use of drugs, then don't expect yourself to be as rich as you're supposed to be. So ideally, poverty becomes the result. Then another effect of of drug abuse, apart from mental health, apart from poverty, apart from death, that I can also mention is that you lose it religiously. You lose it completely. We have seen people who actually go into these things and they forget that God is there. I have ever met a young man who has the dreads, he smokes every day, and every time you see him in town, there's a way he acts like he's preaching. But if you pay keen attention, you'll actually hear nothing. I don't want to think that saying wagwan you're going to communicate from is anything related to religion. So with your wagwan, I'll not entertain it, because I want you to boldly tell me something that really is going to benefit me, something that's going to keep me healthy. I think religiously, people also lose it if they use these drugs. Education is a huge one. With the drugs, you can't move. The mindset of the young people saying that that cannot work. It doesn't work that way. There is no way a young person will confuse me that whenever I smoke, then I start to reason like a serious student. Never. That is completely a zero.
Kimnaz, that is something that is common among students in schools, because they have that. When I drink, maybe when I smoke, I stay very active, I read, I understand. It's something that is still continuous up to now. So how can we best deal with that? How can we change that mentality to tell them that when you drink, when you smoke, it actually disorganizes your mind? You don't understand, you lose focus and concentration and all that. How can we best change that thinking among the students?
First of all, the rules have to be very clear. The rules have to be very clear. Once you are caught smoking, once you are caught chewing mairungi, you are caught smoking opium, you are outrightly dismissed. That indefinite suspension is going to be, a wake-up call. It's going to be a wake-up call. That is one. Two, I think sensitization has to be a very key aspect here. When the students actually, I don't know if good enough in Uganda's syllabus, drug abuse is actually a topic. So, which I think literally is supposed to teach the young people who go to school that it's a bad thing. Because the effects that we're talking about now, even right now we're doing sensitization. So if your kids are out there actually watching, then they should be in position to differentiate between the drug abuse, the positive and the negative sides. But we have never talked much about the positive sides here. That ideally means it's a bad thing. Then I think the schools also have to, liaise with the parents to work in coordination. I think most of the schools do have the PTA, that's the Parent Teachers Association.
Yes.
If the parents, right from their home, are also able to accept that the drugs are bad. So when I send my child to go to school, he should go with that mindset. He should go with that knowledge. He should go with that awareness that the drugs are bad. And as a parent, if you entertain a kid who is in your home and smokes, then you are a cause. You are outrightly a cause. I think that could be one way the schools can actually be able to tackle the aspect of drug abuse. Why? Because the parents have to coordinate with the teachers, and then the association itself can help in this. Probably another thing that I think the schools have to do is, having these exchange visits. These schools shouldn't only think the way they think. They should think the way others also think and act the way others also think. If Mvara SS adopts the good guidance given at St. Joseph's College of Bati, or if St. John's College Ombati copies something good that St. Aloysius College Nyape is doing, that should be a reason enough to say that the exchange visit has a positive effect. If St. Aloysius College Nyape has set of rules that outrightly, abolishes the use of these drugs, then other schools in the region have to copy. And it is through that benchmarking that we can be able to really have a fruitful young people who come out from the schools.
Yeah, that's a very interesting contribution right there. Kimnas, help us understand the relationship between unemployment and drug abuse. We have seen people who show up at workplace while they're drunk, and then someone loses the job, and people don't see these things. People don't pay attention to some of these things, and then at the end of it all, someone says, I don't have a job. What do you have to say about such situations?
Let me start responding to this question by first of all thanking you. You have already acknowledged that one of the main effects of drug abuse is unemployment. I have seen this is a live experience. I have a cousin who during the school times was one of the brightest. This boy, when he graduated, the first job he got was with the Electoral Commission. This was during the campaign or the electoral period. But after that, he got a very good job with some NGO. This is a kid who will always smoke. This is a boy or a gentleman who will always smoke, who will drink, and once he is drunk, he goes into the WhatsApp group of the company, of the organization, and starts writing a lot of nonsense. Until one day, he actually posted his own nudes in the WhatsApp group, and that's how he lost his job. If he was reasoning like any other normal person, then he wouldn't be doing that, which means indirectly or directly, the use of the drugs or the drug abuse itself led him to that. Then I have seen the young people working and leaving workplace or environment even before time, simply because they want to sit down and chew my rungi. I've seen that with very many people, even including some whom I work with. I think that tells you how the use of these drugs or the drug abuse itself has led to unemployment. First of all, when you drink, there are certain organizations that do not want to entertain a public nuisance. If Lillian, who knows like me, I know very well that Ayot Lillian is a very organized young lady who works at Westnile TV. It will be a shock. It will be a huge shock for me to actually see you the next morning drunk and trying to, play around in the streets, like naked, half naked. Then I'll be asking myself, is that Ayot Lillian? You're already throwing me into a very deep, confusion. But what rules and what level of integrity does Westnile TV have? Westnile TV, knowing very well that it's a very corporate body, they will not entertain that nuisance. They will never. Instead, they will send you away. So that is also another way somebody can actually lose their job. NGOs do that. Government entities do that. Even private companies or businesses do that. They don't want to see somebody who is going to get drunk. Then at the end of the day, in the streets, even maybe with the company uniforms, they will see you in the streets. They will be like, wow, is this person really, does this person deserve to be working with us? Then hence sending you away. Then another thing before you actually come in that I want to also clearly state is that we have also seen that the young people who are unemployed create their own employment in their mind, but it doesn't work. It is a virtual thing. Somebody who choose my rungi will tell you, I am going to buy a mansion or build a mansion. I am going to open a company that I'm going to employ this number of people. But you cannot, this is just some imaginary, act. If you stay with the young people who chew my rungi, I've seen some who say, Madoga Magorofanashi. It's all to talk it all about. They are going to talk about figures. So
these are the mental issues we are talking about.
Exactly. And some of them, it's so unfortunate that we have the gambling and the gaming games around here now that young people get indulged into. One unfortunate thing is when you go to a betting center, or a gambling area, let's say where casinos are done, you'll find the young people, somebody actually comes and arranges, let's say, a ticket. They normally call it, is it what? They have a common term that they use. They assume that the ticket they have made, the betting ticket they have made, or the casino they are going into is going to win them something very big. You're going there with your 1,000 shillings. You expect to win 5 billion. You expect to build for your parents. You have failed or stopped going for work in the names of betting. You want to be doing something. I think that in itself explains why drug abuse is actually trying to, it's multiplying the level of unemployment. Somebody is going to say, I am chewing this mairungi after here, or else there's a term they also use called hunters. Hunters ibadomabo.
What's that?
Hey, hunters ibadomabo. Which means when you reach that level of addiction now, in which your head now starts reasoning like an abnormal person, you already start imagining certain things. Like you don't have, first of all, there was that aspect of poverty, one angle that I didn't mention.
That is.
There are people who actually got married. They got married. Very organized family. But the time they start, families break. I think that is a very key point. A young person, you marry somebody's young daughter, and you have 1 or 2 kids. The next day, you have started doing what? Using these drugs. Then mentally, if you have a problem, are you going to really sustain this family? Are you going to keep this family like well? So I think that's another angle. But the imaginary wealth the young people accumulate in their minds just because of these drugs is too much. If it was something that's to be transferred just like this and put physically, Arua would be the best city. I've witnessed it with young people in Yumbe, Jumani, Moyo, in many other places, even including Nebi. I've quite a number of young people I interact with that side of Yumbe, Jumani, Zombo, Pakwach. Then you come to Arua City, you move to Ajumani. I can tell you the number is huge.
Kimnas, this imaginary wealth that they have in their head, it's everywhere. I know someone says, I'm going to build a mansion, then someone starts saying imaginary things and all that. It's really happening. It's good that you have said you've interacted with a few, with many from this district in Westnile and helped a lot. So for someone who has this addiction problem, maybe someone who is also, who has that, the idea of building a mansion, maybe be having businesses in future, but it's still in their head, how best can you help them? How can you help them realize their dreams? What can you tell them to make them work so that their dream is a reality?
The first, I like that question. I like that question very, very much. The first solution to this is that if somebody is already thinking of building mansions, creating businesses to employ young people, minus working, that's already a mental problem. That is already a mental problem. You cannot tell me you are going to create employment opportunities for young people, you are going to build a mansion, you already have 10 cars coming on the way, you have a business in Kaya Business Center, when you're not working yourself. You are seated, chewing my room, and you're thinking all this, you're saying all this. That is already mental disorderliness. I think the first key thing, the first solution to this is a rehab. This kind of person needs to be taken for rehabilitation. Failure to do that, the next thing, after thinking of the mansions, the businesses and other things, the next thing the person will be thinking about is, I need to kill this rich man to get the wealth I'm thinking about. I think that leads to theft already. So if you are thinking of building a mansion minus you working for it, then you have a problem. And the only solution, like I said, is rehab. Just take this kind of person to Butabika, to Arua Hospital, referral hospital, to any other facility that can rehabilitate this person, bring this person back to normality.
Okay, Kim, we get it. Rehab is a necessary thing at some point, but before we get to that level, before the level of addiction, there's this level that we can handle as individuals, maybe as a community, as the people, the law enforcers. On these bottles, on the packages, these companies say alcohol is not suitable for for persons younger than 18. That is it, and that is how their ads run. But is that what is being done? Because you find these bars, these clubs, these shops have these things, and you find a young kid comes to buy alcohol, someone who is younger than 18 years old comes to buy these things, and they have access to those things, so they buy and consume these things. What can be done?
It is only the non-governmental organizations that stop the young people from buying alcohol from them if they were to sell. If you go to any business around the city, around the town, around any trading center within Westnile or in the whole country or even the whole world, every business is geared towards making profit. So a young person coming to buy alcohol, trust me, there is no way a business person who wants to make money will say, no, you're still under 18. I think the ads that they write or the labeling they do in which the writing is done or made, to me is not enough. It will only, like the community we live in, the society will only become a realistically a normal one the day somebody ethically wakes up and says, you know what, you are below 18. I will not sell for you. You see that? I will not sell my alcohol to you. So failure to do that, as long as this has not happened, young people are going to continue consuming this alcohol. And even some of the elderly people, they sit happily with the kids to drink. So where is the world heading? Are we looking at curbing this down, or we're looking at promoting the vice? Which I think speaks a lot about our intentions, speaks a lot about our missions, speaks a lot about our vision, speaks a lot about our targets as individuals. Again, I think the young people need to also associate and start, grabbing the sensitization channels. The TV is already here preaching. Now, if a young person out there is enjoying the show while chewing, then he's doing a disservice to himself or herself. Absolutely. Okay. A total disservice to himself or herself. Somebody is talking about the use of these drugs, the misuse of these drugs. You are there misusing at the same time. That actually means that the ear that listens, the other side allows it to pass. So there you learn nothing and you forget nothing, which is really, really so unfortunate to our community.
Okay, thank you so much. For those who are catching us, I'd like to send a shout out to Winnie and the entire family, the Obis and Ojis of Vora, to our director, that is Ayot, and our producer, Mr. Aldo, and to everyone watching the show right now. Don't forget, you can go to our YouTube channel and our Facebook, leave a comment to be a part of this discussion. We have extensively discussed the topic of drug abuse, looked at the causes, some of the commonly abused drugs, and now we are exhausting the effects the effect it has on an individual, on the families, and the national level, of course, because we want to take it at that level. You can still share with us what you think. Drug abuse, like you said, has so many effects on an individual. You can be there thinking about things. You can run mad in seconds, by the way. Before you know it, it's that. Unfortunately, a lot of people do these things because of group influence, because they want to fit in and all that. So Kimnaz, I want you to address this. Most of these people, like you say, they tell you they see their friends, it's because of group influence, because they want to fit in. And for you particularly, you choose not to be in that suit. So what advice would you give to someone who has friends who abuse drugs? They always tell smoking, taking alcohol and all that, but this person still wants to be a part of this group. What kind of advice would you give to such a person?
The whites actually say that tell me who your friends are, then I will know who you are, or what you are. Ideally, if you stay with people who smoke, you are also a smoker, because there is passive smoking. Yeah. This literally means that when the police comes to pick such people, it actually becomes authentic that you are picked amongst them. Reason is that you have allowed yourself to exist in this environment. One advice I can give to someone like you outrightly asked is that set your own target. Don't set a group target, but set your target as an individual. I have a very good friend I stay with. people normally look at him and say, this guy smokes. He's called Otelon. He's the PRO for Al-Wahil Sports Club. Okay. People who see him say he has dreadlocks and he normally looks rude. When he's walking in the streets, people are like, wow, is he from smoking? What? And those are his looks. People normally attribute such looks to drug abuse or the use of opium and all that. But I can say this is a gentleman who doesn't use any of these drugs. He has never tasted alcohol, neither has he smoked even a mere cigarette. But this is a gentleman I've taken as a personal friend, and 90% of my time on this earth I spend with him. Okay. So if I talk about setting your own targets, I have set my targets to stay with somebody who does not use these things, and that literally means that I fit in that society, I fit in that group, I fit in. If you fail to find a group that stays drug-free, create your own group. Create your own group, and you can be alone in it, and you can call it a lone group of company, and it works for you. It can still work for you. At some point, I felt I had my own group, okay, and I was the only chairperson. When you saw, like many people, they will be like, but Kim, nowadays you avoid your friends. I say, no, I don't avoid them. They're not reasoning with me. You get? That means that I did set my own targets. Then secondly, about the group influence, that question you asked to me is a sensitive one.
Okay, sorry to cut you short. We'll have your response as we go for this short break. If you've just joined in, we are talking about drug abuse and addiction. Right now we are going for a short break, and when we come back we'll see how to address this problem, and for those who are already addicted, how you can seek help and how you can help yourself on individual basis. Don't go away, we shall come back.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
A brand new Global Star TV with StarTimes Inside Technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTimes antenna and satellite signal. With StarTimes Inside Global Star TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes highest bouquet for free, automatic system update, more benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Inside Global Star TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
Yes, thank you for staying with us this evening on this beautiful Saturday evening. And this is the Real Talk with me, Ayot Lillian, every Saturdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Thank you for watching Westnile TV on Zuku and on Star Times. And we're also on our YouTube channel and Facebook page where you can share your comments, your opinion, what you think about this topic for discussion today. A special shout outs to our director Ayot and our producer Aldo, Winnie and the family, and each and everyone catching the show. Mandela all the way from Kasese, thank you for watching, and many other people. What do you think about drug abuse and addiction? Let us know. And we have discussed that along here with our guest Kim Naz Atinga here in the studio. If you have any questions for him, you can leave them on our YouTube channel. We'll have them here. Let's start with our first viewer on our YouTube channel, Surundu Mike, who says Injitambo Roma. Okay, we'll have Injitambo Roma Mibe Otita Latara Rodisi. Okay, Mungu Mwate, but thank you so much, Surundu Mike. You've given me a bit of a challenge there, but thank you so much for your comment and thank you for watching. I hope this reaches out to a number of people out there, especially those who are using this drug and have no idea that they're abusing them. We have talked about the effects that drug abuse has on these individuals, their families, and all that, and we have also seen how you can deal with this problem, but we zero down to one thing that is of most concern, that is the addiction. You know, most people want to get out of the practice of abusing these drugs. For example, you're smoking and you want to quit smoking, you're drinking, you want to leave it, but you are struggling with all that. We have Zile Ahmad Hatari, who says, streaming the show live from Dubai. Dear me, I don't smoke or drink. I don't see that involving yourself. I don't see that involving yourself into drug addiction can stop stress or cases. Pardon me. Case too much of it, it's harmful to our life. Thank you so much, Hatari, for that comment, and many other people who have left the comment on our YouTube channel. We have Olekwa Majid Musa, who says, wow, it can be worked out. Thank you so much. You can also tell us how it can be worked out, as it can be worked out. Thank you. Kim Naz, zeroing down to the issue of addiction, you know, the people who badly want to quit this practice, but it has been a problem. So we want to know how these people can, how someone can get out of the act of abusing this drug, because some have tried and then maybe something triggers them, they fall back onto this, they fall back, start maybe drinking or smoking again. What can they do to get out of this?
There are quite a number of, it's a very good question. To me, it's the most important question, because now here we're looking at how can one actually get out of this mess. I call it a mess because when you reach the level of addiction, it literally means that you cannot live anymore. However, that being said, you still can live. I think the first answer to this is soul searching. If you're able to sit back and look at yourself and say, was this me yesterday? Was I like this? If you do that, that is a self-evaluation. I call it a soul searching. Ask yourself a question: where did it all start? If you do that kind of evaluation, then you're going to be in position to answer rightly that I can quit. It all starts with acceptance. Once you have accepted that this cannot be where I am and where I'm heading, then you will get a direction. That's one. Two, I think the young people have to accept, or the consumers of these drugs have to accept, that you're working, actually working with God is going to be a solution enough. I've seen people, young people, or even elderly people, who are so much in the religious, religion, attachments. Probably have in a Christianity, in Islam. If you're so much into the religion, trust me, there's a way you will understand yourself that, okay, I have to do away with this. Then another thing that I also want to give as a solution probably to addiction is change of environment. as long as you're still going to continue staying in this same environment where you got addicted with these drugs, there is no way you're going to change, because addiction actually means a level where you now find it as a routine. You now find it as part of you. So if you find the drug abuse or the drugs as part of you, and you still continue to get exposed to it, or it's readily available near you, then it's going to be increasingly difficult for you to one day wake up and say enough is enough, because it's available. Or even maybe you used to buy at 5,000, but this time it is free. Then you'll be like, oh, it's been a while, I've not tested, maybe I try this free one. As long as you still remain in that environment, then it's going to be very difficult. So I think change of environment is one key aspect when it comes to dealing with addiction. Then another thing also that I feel you can actually use, or one thing that I feel you can use, is substituting what you like most.
Okay.
Once you get addicted to something, for example, if you were doing Mairungi, we all know that Mairungi comes with its accomplishments. There are certain things that accompany it. Let's say people have these bubble gums and all that. The moment you start feeling like, okay, within yourself, after soul searching, you feel like, I want to quit my Mairungi, then start with the big G. Chew the big G without it. Then there will reach a point you will feel, I think I can even do without the big G. And it is through such a channel, and that ideally means substitution. Like me, I eat a lot. People say I eat a lot. I think it is true. It will reach a point, if someone like me was chewing Mairungi and I wanted to switch or move away from it, I think I will continue to eat good food and a lot.
Okay.
So, though I know it will be termed as abnormal feeding, but it can get me out of that addiction of these drugs and all that. But allow me also say that one of the key things somebody can actually, one of the means somebody can use to also go away from addiction is having, remember we mentioned peer pressure as one of the causes. Dealing with peer groups can be a solution to addiction.
Okay.
How are you going to deal with this? For example, if Aldo is my very good friend, Ayot is my very good friend, Hassan the big brother is my very good friend, and in our circle we chew Mairungi, we drink and we do all that. The time I will say, guys, can't we do without this? That will mean I am trying to dilute the peer group, the pressure. I'm trying to dilute it. I think that though comes, it's closely related to the soul searching or self-evaluation, but this can be done for a group. A group can mean to say enough is enough, and you leave. Then I think lastly for me to say probably about addiction is that I see many young people believing that they cannot move away from these things. And one other solution that I personally feel can help the aspect of addiction is, remember we mentioned the rehabilitation.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, which I've not talked about right now as a solution or as a way forward to get somebody off addiction. But I wanted to mention a point. If you know that you are addicted to this drug, you very well know that you're addicted to this drug. The moment somebody will tell you the bad side of this drug, even before you reach in there, I think you're going to get down and say, this, I cannot reach there. First of all, Ayot, if I meet you on the streets, the you that I know is beautiful, young and very enterprising, the day I will see you with your addiction looking very funny, I think that will be a reason enough for me to say, is that how far she has reached with? I think, no. I shouldn't reach there. That alone can pull you off that nonsense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So still speaking about the peer group, you know, you talked about you influencing your group, maybe telling them, can we do away with this? But then you find instances where these people don't want to leave this act. Maybe they don't want to stop smoking or drinking. And as a person who is trying to keep, you know, get over this, who is trying to do away with this habit, but you still want to keep your group, what can this person do do, because in cases where you meet these people, it triggers you. You feel the urge to go back into drinking and maybe smoking. So what can someone in such a situation do? Because that is what most people trying to get away from the act facing.
There is in dealing with addiction, there is one thing I call Ugandan method. The Ugandan method is where you find your son having gotten addicted to something, you imprison him. I've seen that happening several times. That's why I call it a Ugandan method. I've gone to places where I ask where is so and so, they tell me he's in prison. If you ask what he has done, they will say no, he oversmokes. The father or the mother has decided to take him inside. This is a safe custody. This is a place where this person is going to stay minus using these things, are not even seen them. So he can come out of that, but it's a forceful one. It is not a self-driven stuff. It is something that's going to be inflicted on you, something that's going to be injected into you. It is something that is going to be, first of all, if you reach a level where you cannot come out and the people you stay with think you can actually be helped by only sending you to prison, you know you have reached the worst level. The worst level.
So, before reaching prison, is there any kind of support group that these people have, maybe where they can access therapy? Are there such kind of groups available in our community that these people could join?
Yeah, there are very many of these groups, and I even actually asked for more to be created. If you go to the villages, there are actually groups, more especially, I love what the refugees are doing. I love what the NGOs are giving the refugees. I have gone to the refugee settlement, particularly Bidi and Rhino Camp, where I have seen groups called peer groups. Those peer groups, okay, ideally, if they say peer group, people normally term it as a group that misleads you. Yeah. But a peer group can be something, or a group that actually leads you into good things, or a group that actually gets you off a bad thing. So I've seen many of these peer groups. There was a particular boy in a camp, in a refugee camp, particularly in Bidi, who actually impregnated a very young girl. This boy was asked to be taken to prison because the case of defilement was registered. The peer group said no, that cannot be a solution. We are going to kill the ambition of this young man. What we need to do, let's get him to the group, back to the group, instead of taking him to police. Let's talk to him. This is a boy who ended up, he got rehabilitated just by what the group was saying. He was perfectly influenced to think that what he did was wrong, which indeed was wrong, and he was able to reform. I think these groups are very, very important. First of all, they are peer groups, which needs to be created almost in every village. Yeah. When we were growing up, we used to have groups where you will find young girls and boys mingling together to play gaze. They used to call it gaze. Yeah. I don't know if in other places how it's called. Where you play, you dance. It was more of an MDD group, particularly in the area. So it was an area kind of stuff for which you learn a lot of things. If you are, even to the extent, we started feeling like not going for holidays. Because the time you are sent home from school to stay with your parents, you are going to enjoy this act. Then a parent will say, I think you have overstayed with me, go stay with your uncle in Kampala. Then you'll be like, you start thinking, why am I leaving the Gaze group? You always start resistant. You see, you become so resistant to it. So at the end of the day, I think those groups help. They help a lot. The young people who chew Mairungi, it's always going to be so unfortunate for them. Those ones who smoke, it's going to be so unfortunate for them. If they instead join the groups that influences them to use these things, it's going to be a disservice to them.
So, like you already said, there's so many of these groups, but I believe a lot of young people don't know that these groups exist. But you can still find out, reach out to the leaders in your communities, people like Kimnas who can show you how you can deal with this. Kimnas, you talked about rehabilitation. We have this center where these people can be helped to cope up with this addiction, how they can get out of this. But the biggest challenge we have is maybe people trying to work all this have is these young people have one thing in mind: these centers are for mad people, people who are mentally unstable. So when you go there, they feel like it's not where they belong. I don't know how we can change this perception. If there's a way we can help these young people understand that it's a center where you can seek help, where they can help you deal with your problem and become a better person. So I don't know how we can best talk to these young. And also, as we conclude, I'd love to hear your general advice to the young people regarding the use of drug and how best to deal with addiction.
Thank you so much. Let me, like you said, rehabilitation is being misunderstood by very many, by a large group of young people. It's so quite unfortunate that they're able to think that way. When they talk about rehabilitation, it doesn't only make happen when you are addicted. Neither does it happen only when you are so much into it. Rehabilitation comes in different forms. One of the key forms or core ones that I can mention is that when the people around you start sensing that you are actually losing it. These, to me, are people who actually want good for you. If somebody talks to you about rehabilitation, I had a workmate who was over drinking. This was in the past. This gentleman was actually, by the way, it is also on record, and I want to be quoted by the camera, like on record, that people who are taken for rehabilitation are forcefully taken. Because within themselves, they don't accept that rehabilitation is only something you can actually take in good faith. They think when you reach that point, they think when the community or the society now starts thinking that you need to be rehabilitated or be taken for a rehab, then you are at the worst point. That is not the case. Actually, those are people who love you. It is only the people who love you who think of rehabilitation for you. Because for them themselves, who are into the trouble, they can't think about it. And that's, I want to put that very, very clear. Then secondly, like you said, I wish to tell the young people that don't allow yourself to get addicted to these things. It's a very, very bad thing, because the you who used to freely walk is going to be limited from accessing certain things. Why would you allow a normal you, Kimnas, to get into a stage where every movement, everything you do has to be monitored? I think that is something that you need to really think for yourself. Think it for yourself. If you fail to think it for yourself, you who is safe, think it for someone who is going into that level. Because at the end of the day, as a young person, I would want to go and watch football. But the time you are going to be in prison, or the time you're going to be in the rehab, you don't have the freedom. Maybe in the rehabilitation center, they can have for you the screens to watch football freely. But that is still not free, because you have put yourself in that condition. Thirdly, I also want to ask the young people to understand that you are for yourself. And it is you who will actually make the better for yourself. No one is going to do that for you. I've seen young people who think, because again, I think I will need to bring in the figures very clear here. It's also been well researched that 62% of the people, of the young people who actually get mental disorderness or run mad are from rich family. They are from rich family.
So why is that?
It is because the young people, or a young person who is been well raised and with a very good foundation, if he's abandoned in the middle, you get, like, others get frustrated. For example, if you were raised by your rich father, and maybe he dies in the middle, God forbid, he dies in the middle, or your mother, who has been taking very good care of you, passes on, then you find this kind of person gets confused, will not know where to take next. Because it is also on record that our uncles and our aunties have stopped bothering. They have stopped caring. That is what I'm seeing with our people here. Gone are those days when your aunt will say, now that your father has died, please come stay with me. Come, let me pay your school fees. Come, let me see you through growing. But this has stopped. I wonder why, but I think we are slowly losing the culture. Then another thing is that as a young person, do something. Do something. This practice of always getting into this abuse comes from you always want to ask. You have stopped working for yourself. So you want people to work for you. And people are going to get tired. Like me, I've already answered to young people. Don't ask from me 10 times. Ask twice, I will understand. But 3 times, 4 times, you're not working. Do something. I am a young person, yes. I know I will bore you if I ask from you 10 times. Even your own parents will get tired of you. So at the end of the day, as a young person, let's work. Let's work. It's a solution to all these problems. And maybe lastly, before I probably have my parting shots, if time will be there.
And as you may be closing, okay,
yeah.
First go on.
I think as a young person, we should understand that employment is not a must that somebody is going to call you and give you a job. You can create your own job.
Correct.
It is not a must that you should have 1 billion or 1 million or 10 millions in your account to start up something. I think with nothing, with your brain, you can start up something. I've seen young people who go into this art and craft. I've seen young people who go into tailoring, these things. And there are also government projects. There are government projects that actually, to me, favor the young people. If there is welding and fabrication project that is in your area, don't only say it is for those who are already taking care of it. No, go and learn. I think we have to make a move as young people.
Okay, as we conclude today's episode, we'll still want to know what you'd suggest, specifically your last words directly to the parents and the government, maybe the law enforcers. We know these laws are there, these bills are there. Are they not being enforced well, or are the parents not being responsible for their children or not guiding the children well? Like you said, what is your final word to them?
To the government, let the rules be clear. Let the rules be very clear. The government shouldn't make confusing rules that are going to confuse, first of all, then the people who are supposed to consume these rules or be guided by these rules.
So let's say you're talking in regard to the bill that has recently been passed.
Exactly.
Okay.
Let the rule be clear. And let the rule not favor anyone. Let the rule be neutral. Let it protect the masses. Okay. That is one.
And it should be enforced.
Exactly. The implementation, like you said, should be perfectly done. 2, to the parents, don't bring on earth a child that you're not going to care for. If you're going to think that what God gave you freely is going to be used freely also to create more people, you're creating more trouble to the world. I think as a parent or as a father or a mother, you should understand that it is your absolute responsibility to actually see through a child you have brought on this earth. God will judge you accordingly. That is to the parents. Then the young people, I think there's no parent equally who wants to see bad for their child or children. I think we should continue listening to our parents, because I have never seen, not even once, a father wishing bad for his own son or daughter. Though there are always blame games, domestic violence cases at home, but those ones shouldn't be your issue. What should be your issue is whether you're going to grow as a right person, because Uganda needs you. The world equally needs you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kim Naz. We have had a very fruitful discussion on this topic of today, that is drug abuse and drug addiction. As a viewer, I believe you have picked a thing or two from this discussion that can change your life, of someone that is close to you who is maybe addicted to drugs or abusing drugs. We talked about these things. It's from as simple as not following even a prescription that is given by maybe a doctor. You could be underusing abusing or overdosing on a drug. And also when it comes to excessive consumption of alcohol and of smoking, things like that, this is what we mean when we talk. Unfortunately, a lot of young people are into this act, some because they want to maybe influenced by their peer, others want to fit in, some say they are stressed, and in the end the effects are diverse, but remember, it affects you as an individual first before it goes affecting other people. It is a choice that you can take at individual level whether or not to start using drugs. But once you're already in the act, we understand that it's something that is not easy to quit once you are addicted to it. That's why we have support groups, and you as family members, you can show support to such people by helping them, maybe attend therapy sessions, take them to rehab, and talk to them at individual level. Yes, we have parents, we have friends who can talk to you, but the choice is all yours. We also have our law enforcers. You know, the government also has laws against this drug abuse and all that, but the decision comes from you. Like Kim Nas says, you have to acknowledge as an individual that what I'm doing is not good for my health, or maybe it's affecting me. We've seen lots of people, you know, lose jobs because of issues of drugs, and families getting broken. A lot of productive people, you know, going to being idle, and many people are on the streets because they are avoiding drugs. Remember, these drugs come in many forms, and now we're saying be cautious of the cookies that you have, since we now have weed cookies and all that. The packaging has changed, but the bottom line is that it is one of the biggest problems that we are battling today in this country. And I believe you have seen this in your community. Some of our parents are, you know, drug addicts, alcohol, some of the most common cigarettes that they're battling with, but you can help them. We should show support to these people, help them come out of this problem, and you can help share this link so that more people get this information. And if you also have anything, your thoughts, you can share with us on our YouTube channel. But that is it for today. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Westnile TV. Remember, we are on Star Times, Zuku, and we also stream live on our Facebook and our YouTube channel. This is The Real Talk with me, Lillian Ayot. Every Saturdays from 9 to 10 p.m. we discuss topics of interest here, topics that can help us change, improve, and build each other. And remember, this month, September, is awareness month for sickle cell, people with sickle cell disease. There's a lot to learn about sickle cell, and for this matter, next week we have a very special episode that will entirely be on providing information and creating awareness about sickle cell disease. It's important for you to know your status. Thank you so much. That has been it from us to you, and a shout out to each and everyone who stayed to watch this show. See you again next Saturday. Have a very lovely evening and weekend.